Hello, everyone. I'm asking that we all take our seats now. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the Museum of the Moving Image. My name is Carl Goodman. I'm the museum's executive director. We are really pleased to be hosting tonight's Borough President Candidate Tech Forum. We want to thank tonight's event organizer, the Coalition for Queens, located right here in Long Island City. The event sponsor, AT&T, thank you. The partners, Code for America, Queens County Young Democrats, and Partnership for New York City. Of course, our continued gratitude to the elected officials, both for their public service and the ongoing support of the museum. First, of course, the amazing Jimmy Van Bramer, as well as our council member, as well as our state representatives, Arabella Simotis and State Senator Mike Gianaris. I really want to thank tonight's candidates for coming to the museum and being part of the event. This event is important. It's about an important subject. It should be tweeted, live streamed, webcast, podcast, shoutcast, YouTubed, Instagrammed, Vined, tumbled, BuzzFed, Googled, and even Binged. But tech is ultimately not about buzzwords and shiny mobile devices responsible for the increase in crime rate in New York City. It's about 21st century skills, jobs, education, citizenship, and leadership. And nobody understands this more than the museum, and we're really happy to be part of this event. It is now my pleasure to turn things over tonight to the young folk. Please welcome from the Coalition for Queens, its founder, Ju-Kay Su.
Thank you very much, Carl, for hosting us in this beautiful space tonight. I think the Museum of the Moving Image is a great example of a thriving digital media and cultural institution we have right here in Queens. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Ju-Kay Su, the founder of Coalition for Queens, and we're one of the organizers for tonight's Queensborough President Candidates Forum on Tech Policy. Coalition for Queens, we foster the tech entrepreneurial ecosystem in our great borough, the world's most diverse community. We achieve this through events working with the tech community here in Queens and across New York, through policy and advocacy working with community leaders and elected officials, and through creating increased educational opportunities in tech to make Queens a leading innovation hub and to increase economic opportunity here in New York. I want to thank our candidates who have joined us here tonight. Councilmember Leroy Comrie, former Councilmember Melinda Katz, and Councilmember Peter Vallone Jr. I also want to thank our moderators, Claire Trapasso from the Daily News and Kelly Faircloth from the New York Observer and Beta Beat. You in the audience can join the conversation as well by using the hashtag QueensTech, and all the participant organizations and the candidates have their Twitter handles on your programs in front of you. Now, the reason we're all here tonight is to discuss the future of tech and economic development here in Queens. The New York tech community is growing rapidly and providing an economic boom to our city. There are some great and innovative tech companies here in Queens, such as Songza, Shapeways, Aereo, Uber, with offices here. There are also many dedicated entrepreneurs and techies. The Queens Tech Meetup over the past year have grown to over 1,300 members. We believe the future is bright for tech here in Queens and New York. Cornell NYC Tech is building a campus on neighboring Roosevelt Island that's estimated to create up to 120,000 tech jobs. And much of that potential will be here in Western Queens. Queens is positioned to become a major tech hub for innovation, and the policies of the next Queensborough president, one of whom is here tonight, will greatly affect the development of the tech ecosystem here in Queens and across New York City. Tonight's forum to discuss these important issues wouldn't have been possible without AT&T, our sponsor. I want to thank and welcome the president of AT&T New York, Marissa Shorenstein. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Juke, and it's great to partner with you again on another wonderful tech-related event in Queens. Thank you for having us at this beautiful museum, and thank you to the candidates for coming this evening. I'm glad we have enough candidates to actually have a forum. It's good news. So, I just wanted to say that AT&T, we're thrilled to present this forum. We are deeply committed in New York to both the cultural vibrancy of each community and to the growth of the tech community across the city and in the borough of Queens. We have committed a lot of resources to ensuring that not just our technology works for you, but that we invest in the jobs and the people of this community. And so we're thrilled to be here this evening to hear what you have to say about bringing more jobs to Queens in the tech sector, about how you're going to work with Cornell New York City Tech to take advantage of all that has to offer, and also about how you're going to continue to build on the cultural partnerships that we've built with many of the wonderful groups here in Queens. So thank you so much. I look forward to the conversation, to hearing also about your concerns about legislation and regulatory issues that relate to technology, and thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Marissa and AT&T, again for supporting this event. I also want to thank our great elected officials here in Western Queens, who's been a great supporter of innovation and tech here. Please welcome our City Council member, Jimmy Van Bramer. Give him a round of applause, please.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 26th Council District and one of the most amazing cultural institutions in the city of New York. We are so blessed to have the Museum of the Moving Image and the great Carl Goodman here. It's great to have you here. It's great to have so many wonderful council members and former council members who are running for borough president. And I think the next borough president is going to be in a position to take Queens to the next level in so many different ways, and I think we are blessed to have so many wonderful candidates to choose from, all of whom I have worked with in one capacity or another for many, many years. And Juke said the next borough president is sitting here in front of us, which I take it means he is not endorsing Tony Avella. So
Good move from
yeah, yeah.
We can live with that. We can live with that.
Peter approves of that situation, but and I know it's going to be an interesting debate. I'm sure that Claire Chipasso from the Daily News is going to draw out the candidates, maybe even provoke some really intense and feisty competition between the three to make it much more enjoyable for the rest of us. But I do want to say thank you to all of the partners, obviously Juke and all the work they're doing. Long Island City, Astoria, Western Queens is really at the forefront of this tech revolution in Queens. And I know the three candidates will address how we're going to continue, how we're really going to benefit from Cornell Technion, not just assume benefits from Cornell Tech for Queens, but actually make sure that that happens for Queens and Queens residents. So I just want to say on behalf of all the elected officials who represent this area, welcome to this area and welcome to this wonderful institution. Have a great debate, and I look forward to hearing so much more from Peter, Melinda, and Leroy as they embark on this journey. So thank you very much, Juke, for allowing me to say a few words.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilmember. We always appreciate your support. In addition to our sponsor and host tonight, this wouldn't have been possible without our great partner organizations. Here with us tonight are the Partnership for New York City, the Queens County Young Democrats, and Code for America. The Partnership for New York City is a network of the city's top business leaders dedicated to enhancing the economy of the 5 boroughs and maintaining the city's position as a center of commerce, finance, and innovation. The partnership recently released the New York City Jobs Blueprint, an analysis of the city's economy over the past decade, along with recommendations on how to create more jobs and businesses here in New York, with a particular focus on the tech sector. They are represented here tonight by their Executive Vice President, Mike Seamus. Please give him a round of applause. The Queens County Young Democrats represent the youth arm of the Democratic Party in Queens. Their primary mission is to help elect Democratic candidates to office and promote a better understanding of public policy. They are represented here tonight by their president, Nick Rollison. Here's Nick. Code for America is a national organization. They're here in New York building a government for the people, by the people, and for the 21st century. Noah Hidalgo is here representing Code for America. We're lucky to have such a wide range of groups that have come together here for this event tonight, and I think this highlights the importance of these issues facing our borough in Queens and across New York. Now, please give one final round of applause for our sponsors and partner organizations. Tonight's event is also being live streamed, generously provided by the Internet Society New York chapter. The video is now being streamed online and will be available on our website in the near future. And now to begin tonight's program. Our moderators, Claire Trapasso, is a reporter at the New York Daily News, and she specializes in covering Queens. Kelly Faircloth is a reporter at the New York Observer and Beta Beat, and she specializes in covering New York City's growing tech community. They're both residents here in Astoria, Queens. Take it away. Thank you.
Hello? Oh, it works. Okay. Would you guys like to give a quick introductory statement? Sure. There we go. Or we can just start with questions.
Well, we'll start on the left, I guess. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. I did already tweet, as I was told, under that hashtag. And although my kids won't let me Instagram or Vine. They're a little nervous that I'm on Facebook, so I don't Instagram. I don't want to get them any more mad at me. My name is Peter Vallone. I've been privileged to represent Astoria right down the block for 11 years now. Most people, if you've heard of me, my reputation that precedes me is that I'm a law and order guy and an ethics type guy. And that's true. There are worse reputations to have, but there's a lot more about me that people don't know, and they're learning now. I mean, first of all, I'm a dad. Two great girls, one perfect scores on her SATs after coming out of public school, now at Notre Dame, and my other daughter just graduated St. Francis Prep this weekend, top of the class math award, again, public school, and then St. Francis Prep, also going to Notre Dame. So I'll be passing around a tuition envelope to help me out. But they're great kids. I'm also an environmentalist. My lawsuit before I even started as a council member helped close the Charles Paletti plant, the dirtiest polluter in the state. It's one of my proudest accomplishments. I wrote the plastic bag recycling law in this city. I'm working on a styrofoam ban. I wrote the trans fat ban. And I'm an animal rights advocate, and for anyone else who loves animals, tomorrow's a big day. We're having the first hearing on my bill that I've been pushing for years, which would create an animal abuse registry, like the sex offender registry. You abuse an animal, you get on this registry. Because right now, if you torture an animal, you can get an animal the next day. There's nothing stopping you. You can just torture more animals. So if this registry gets established, it'll go a long way to protecting our animals. Sometimes you'll see me riding my Harley around the neighborhood. This weekend I was privileged to be the Grand Marshal for Bikers Against Breast Cancer, rode throughout Queens. That was a lot of fun. We raised tens of thousands of dollars for Sharing and Caring, just another great group in Queens. And then I took a spin down to the Rockaways to visit their Irish festival, first one in 17 years, and it was a lot of fun. So those are some things people don't know about me. Today we're talking about business and technology. My background is what's necessary to bring business to Queens. It's not that difficult. Technology is like any other business. The same as trying to bring delis to Queens. Same as trying to bring, big chain stores or frozen yogurt stores, which we seem to have about 1,000 of. You need two things. You need a business-friendly environment, and you need a safe environment. Those are lessons we learned, and those are lessons we continually forget. I am a small business person. Before I was elected, I ran my family's small law firm it's been there since 1932. I only did it for 10 years. I know the pressures business face. I know the decisions they have to make, and I know how much government is hurting them right now, telling them what to pay people, how much sick leave to give, and finding them incessantly, over-aggressive enforcement. That's going to scare business away. And the other thing businesses need is a safe environment. That's what happened in the 90s. It was my father's Safe City, Safe Streets program that turned this city around when the economy was going south and crime was 75–80% higher than it is now. That's what changed this city. And we need to continue that in Queens. So that's the foundation we need here to bring any kind of business, especially technology businesses here to Queens. A safe
Thank you
city
very much.
and a business-friendly city. Thank you, Claire.
Awesome. Melinda, would you like to speak for?
Hi, everyone. I do not have a Harley.
You can get back of mine.
It's been a long time. I did, however, drive a KZ 440 when I was in college. And I do have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I too have large tuition bills. So my name is Melinda Katz. I am running for Queens Borough President. This is my 20th year pretty much in public service. I was a council member for 8 years, where I was chair of the City Council's Land Use Committee. I was assembly member for 5 years. I was director of community boards for Borough President Schulman for 3 years, and I am an attorney by trade. I'd like to thank the Museum of Moving Image for having us, and Carl and Juke and AT&T, by the way, who special place. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight. This is about how to move into the 21st century, which quite honestly, I believe a lot of Queens is not in the 21st century. We need to move that forward. The fact that you're all here today means that you want to be part of figuring out how to get there. And I think that is an important step when it comes to technology, when it comes to engineering, when it comes to marketing. And so I'm proud to be part of that. I look forward to working with you for the next 4 years to figure out how we do create the jobs and create startup businesses and make sure that our kids are educated to be able to work the jobs that they're so sorely needed throughout this country, but also to make sure that our folks stay right here in the borough of Queens. I think it's our responsibility to have a vision for that. My vision for that is to create young men and women who will take advantage of the jobs that are being created by the industry. They're there. They're middle class, good jobs that are there. And we aren't training our children who come out of school well enough to be able to take hold of those jobs. And many of you here are looking for them as well. And we need to make sure that we are creating children and students and young men and women who can take hold of those jobs. We need to figure out a STEM school. We need to make sure that the STEM school that's created already, that is split in two, by the way, for campuses, is not the only issue. Not going to open until 2019. We need to train our young men and women. We need to make sure that the core education of the city of New York has math and sciences and tech, to make sure that we're ready to go to the colleges and the grad schools, because we're not only competing in the city of New York, we are competing with international, we're competing with all over the countries. We need to make sure our kids are able to have that competition. I'd like to see our city wired. I'd like to make sure that everywhere in Queens and New York City, you can get a good connection. And I mean a good connection. Kansas City right now has a test program, beta program, that is testing fiber optic, advanced fiber optic. And if you don't have a good internet connection, then you don't have a part of an infrastructure of a city to succeed. It is just as important as our streets and our highways and our police force and all of the things that we so desperately need in this city. We need a good internet connection. And somehow, we are the greatest city of New York. We are the greatest city in the world. And we can't seem to deliver that. But most importantly, we need to have a vision for our borough. You know, we have Cornell University, clearly. All of you are here. It's Cornell Tech Campus, and we all know that. We need to make sure that we have the capacity of having startup tech businesses in Long Island City, because with the startup tech businesses, you're going to get a flow of folks that start the businesses, employ folks in good, working, middle-class jobs, and then, God willing, stay in this borough, raise their children in this borough, move to the Rockaways, move to Bayside, be able to invest in the borough. So I'm looking forward to having a really great discussion here tonight.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to finding answers over the next 4 years.
Thank you. Leroy.
Thank you, Claire. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leroy Comrie. I'm pleased to be here, and I'm pleased to offer myself as your next borough president candidate. I am a parent. I have 2 children. My son is 16 years old. He's in a public school in Queens. My daughter's 19. She's just finished her first year in college. She didn't do as well as Peter's 2 daughters did with perfect SAT scores, but she has enjoyed her first year of college away, and for some reason she has a desire to come home and be back nearer to her parents for the next 4 years in college. I think that it was an interesting event and an interesting desire for her to have that experience. I'll be hopefully married 23 years in July, depending on depending on the campaign. Yeah, making sure that I try to do the right thing by my wife. And campaigns are hard on families, but I've been proud that I do have their support. I'm a child of Queens. My parents moved away in 1982 to Florida. My brother moved away to Ohio, but I believed in the wonder and beauty and diversity of this borough. I've always enjoyed the opportunity to experience so much just living here in Queens, everything from the different cultures to the strong diversity to the fact that all Queens residents basically want the same thing. No matter where you've been, no matter how long you've been here, you want to make sure that your opportunities for a good quality of life are strong, that the schools that your children are going to are doing well, that your streets are safe, and that hopefully your stores, your businesses, and your community are reflective of a strong community. I've been working in government since 1982. Before that, I was also working in volunteer groups all around the borough. I've had an opportunity to serve as school board president before I got elected to the city council. I was president of Community School Board 29 for 4 years. And since I've been elected, I've been working hard all around the borough to try to make sure that we can understand that as a borough we need to grow in many different ways. The beauty of Queens is its diversity and the strength of its neighborhoods, and the idea that we have so many people coming from so many different spectrums with innovations, with ideas, with a desire to make things happen, with a desire to see an opportunity be creative, with visions that need to be fostered and nurtured. One of the things that I did immediately when I got elected was to create opportunities for people to develop their nonprofits and their ideas and become nonprofits, having nonprofit workshops, giving people an opportunity to learn what it was to be a nonprofit, to develop a board. I opened that up to make sure that block associations and community groups could come in and find out how to build an organization, how to make sure that they had access to government agencies and access to even the private sector to find out how they could appeal for grants and what the proper way is to write for grants. My entire mission as a person is to make sure that government is accessible to people and that people can open up to government as well. I'm excited about this coalition. I was happy when I first met Juke and his vision to make sure that we had tech as a major part of Queens. And when we found out that the administration had came up with an idea for a advanced technological plan, and I, as chairman of the Land Use Committee, we found out that over 28 different groups wanted to come to New York to set up what became now with New York Tech and also NYU downtown in Brooklyn, where they've also gotten an advanced technological program that they'll be doing on a graduate level. And that just shows that there's so much energy here in New York, so many people that want to live and locate here in the city, that we have to make sure that Queens takes advantage of that as well.
That is actually a perfect segue into our first question.
All right.
The topic is startup companies, digital media, and tech industry policy. So the first question is, you are or were all members of the New York City Council. Can you point to any legislation you have taken to support the tech sector and startups that differentiate you from each other?
Well, I've pushed for legislation in 3 different levels to try to help the tech sector. Number one, was appointed early on to look at the Cornell New York City Tech Plan and also to work with the coalition to try to create a tech area in Queens, and working with UK helping him with getting the opportunities to outreach to government, to outreach to people about his coalition and his idea. Also, we passed legislation to create a lesser burden on merchants so that they would not have to deal with the fines and issues. I served on the council, on the joint task force that removed the violations from businesses that were dealing with violations that were unnecessary because they were old charter regulations that were no longer applied to businesses. We just passed, Peter and I just passed legislation recently to try to remove violations so that a business would get warnings instead of getting tickets when they were fined, because a lot of new businesses are too busy working. They don't have time to stay up and be cognizant of every new fine or every fee or every new regulation that the city comes up with to change things. We had some businesses that were getting fines for silly things, like because their water temperature was too high or because their door was facing inward instead of outward. Those are things that you should get violations for. And we were able to get that brought back to a warning instead of getting an automatic ticket. You know, we have to free up the business community and help the business community. We have to make sure that we push the city to come in and teach the business community so that they can continue to nurture that. And we will be we have to do everything we can as elected officials to unshackle government and keep government away from allowing businesses to grow and get back into a teaching mode, in a mode where we can help businesses grow by giving them the examples, by giving them the education, by taking them to locations where they can learn how to continue to enable their business and enhance their business, but not be afraid that every time someone from the city agency knocks on their door or comes by their office that they're trying to write a $1,000 ticket for them.
So I haven't been a council member for 4 years, but I'll try to backtrack on that. But I think one of the most important things is what Councilman Comrie said. We need to make the business community much more able to access the system here. The Department of Buildings is probably one of the most cumbersome agencies, and anyone that's trying to start a tech startup or any startup in the city of New York has to go through an extremely burdensome process. We need to be able to digitalize it. We need to make sure that there are things available online. Right now, the Mayor's Office of Film, Television, and Broadcasting does have a lot of their applications online, and my understanding is it has been quite a success. I'd love to see that for all of the other agencies in the city of New York. When I was a council member, one of the key things that we did was make sure that the libraries were upgraded into the 21st century, to make sure they had computers, to make sure the checkout of books and giving the back of the books was quick and efficient. And we did that by bringing the libraries into the 21st century. We also needed to make sure, try to talk fast because it's a minute and a half. We also needed to make sure that our schools were up to speed. You know, when I became a council member, and, you know, the funny thing is part of being in the business for almost 20 years now, is I watched my elementary schools and my junior high schools and my high schools go from just being sorely void, just totally void of, in many cases, computers and high-tech areas. And we were able to make sure, as slowly but surely, that we were able to spend the capital money to upgrade the computers. I remember specifically going from land computers to many years later, a school saying to me, you know what? We want laptops. Our kids need to be able to bring them home, and we need to be able to check out these laptops. And I just thought that was amazing innovation at the time, and it was like 10 years ago. And so we needed to be able to educate our children very young. And so, look, we have a lot of work to do in the city of New York to bring it even further into the 21st century, and I'm looking forward to doing that in our borough.
Thank you. Pete?
Just a clarification, are we getting a minute and a half per question? Just so we, because about a minute and a half, okay. But whatever you say, I'll do. I just want to make sure I understand. I'll set my timer. It's, you know, all three of us probably supported all the same bills that existed in the city council when it comes to supporting the tech industry, but what differentiates us is what we didn't support. The tech industry doesn't need the government. It needs some zoning help. It needs capital funding help, perhaps from the government, and borough presidents can do that. It doesn't need laws passed by the city council. It needs government to stay the hell out of its way. That's what it needs. And every day, we're getting Albany and the city council are passing law after law, which is stopping our business from coming here. I'm the only, and by the way, one of the best things about tech is you can now go back and research everything we're saying. You can Google everything we're saying, which is great. Go back and look at who's been doing this for 11 years as an elected official, standing up for small businesses, because I am a small business person. The only person who voted against paid sick, living wage. We just passed a bill the other week that says you can't discriminate against the unemployed, which sounds great until your business winds up in front of the Human Rights Commissioner in court paying a $5,000 fine. These things are happening almost monthly at the city council level and at the Albany level. And I'm the person who hasn't supported any of that because I'm a small business person. Just get the hell out of my way and I will provide the jobs and I will pay the taxes and we'll support all the other programs we need in this city. Some of the things, well, one of the things you need here is a borough president who understands technology. And I'm proud of being a pioneer when it comes to Facebooking and interacting with my community. I was the first who does all my own social media, all my own Facebooking, and interact with all of my constituents personally. When they contact me, whether it's on my wall or personally, I get back to each one of them. And it's been a huge help, and hopefully I'll have time to go into a little bit more of that later. But you need a borough president who understands technology, you need a borough and social media, and a borough president who understands business. That's 2 minutes, but if he's not going to stop me, I'll keep going. So.
Okay. According to the New York City Jobs Blueprint recently released by the Partnership for New York City, New York is the most expensive place in the country to build a business due to high overall costs. As a result, too few of the city's startups and small businesses are growing into major companies. What steps would you take to ensure that Queens becomes a more attractive location for businesses to start and expand here?
How do you want to do this, Remy?
Yeah.
Do you want us to all take turns starting?
Yeah.
However you want to.
Definitely. How about we just go from the side to, we just go down the road?
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was going to be first again, so I was just absorbing the question. So how do we make sure that New York is more business friendly and give companies the opportunity? I think that we need to make sure that we fight hard as borough president to create a climate to ensure that we are pushing to have two things that have been working well in Queens. The Queens Overall Economic Development Corporation has been doing a business startup competition where they bring businesses in to try to help them and nurture them and create an opportunity and give them actually a $10,000 stipend to create an opportunity to start a business. I think we need to, as borough president, I would expand that at a larger level to bring businesses in. I would have a business task force working with the Chamber of Commerce, which is an excellent group, and I would recommend anyone to go to the Queens Chamber of Commerce. They do monthly meetings, they have workshops, they bring in speakers. I would make sure that every business in Queens had an opportunity to work with the Chamber, the overall Queens Chamber of Commerce and the local Chamber of Commerces. At every month have a business roundtable working with the Borough President's Office in Queens to ensure I would work to create opportunities to get a template to push for tax exemptions for new businesses as well. Not just that we have a couple of corridors in Queens that get tax breaks now in Jamaica and in Long Island City. There are commercial tax breaks, and also the Jamaica corridor has a tax incentive for people that are locating and hiring employees from that area.
Okay.
I would work to move that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I got to time myself.
Sorry.
There's just so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, please, I realize we should do. I mixed up the order, you guys. If you could go, that would be great.
Whatever you want, it's fine. The question was, what can we do to encourage business here? Well, I hate to repeat myself, but the foundation is the most important thing, and the foundation is a business-friendly government, less government, smaller government, less taxes, less fines, and a safe city. And I'm a former prosecutor, 12 years public safety chair, and I'm going to bring that to the borough president's office. And I'm going to continue to focus on those two things, on helping our businesses and on keeping us safe. And I have the experience, and I've been doing that for 11 years. But once we do that, once we have that foundation, there's so much more. As Melinda and Leroy were saying, you know, we need to have, we need to look what's going on elsewhere in the country. And look at you know, the West Coast especially, where they have these campus type situations where they have the business and then people living there all together. We've got to look at the right areas to put these tech industries. I like Long Island City and I like the East River because it's right near Cornell. Cornell is like an anchor tenant now. We've got them there. Now we've got to provide what they need. Melinda was saying education. Again, look at what we've done, and we've all done a lot, but in my district alone, two of the best ways to educate our kids to come into this industry are the Gifted and Talented program and the STEM program. I saved the Gifted and Talented program in Astoria along with some other people, especially the parents and the teachers. They wanted to decimate it. It's our best and our brightest, that PS 122, and they were going to take it away. And I rallied at City Hall and Tweed Building, and we saved that. And those kids are going to come out and be the top of their class. The STEM program was about to, I just increased the STEM program to middle school here in my district. STEM program provides the background that kids need to come into this industry. So we've got to give them the workforce. And we've got to, you know, increase, have a better network connection, as Melinda said, as an internet connection. Although I don't think a better internet connection is as important as our police force. Maybe that's a little bit different.
Great.
Oh, okay. A lot of other things we got to do. I didn't get to them.
Thank you.
So I think one of the biggest probably distinctions between me and my friend Councilman Vallone is I really believe the government has a key role in the future of this city. So what can we do to help small businesses? I think the government needs to rezone some of Long Island City to make sure that it has the capacity of being able to take in the small tech starter businesses. I think if we're going to monopolize on Cornell being there, we need to make sure that Long Island City especially is ready for high fiber optic connections, make sure it's ready for the small businesses, make sure that there's housing near there so that folks that are doing startup companies have a place to live, but also are able to commute to work in a minute and a half so that they are spending their time and their resources on the future of this city. I think that we need to make sure that as we move into the future here in the borough of Queens, that we have the highest internet connection that we can have. I don't want to see Long Island City or anywhere else developed with a Wi-Fi connection or a internet connection here, and then tear up the streets again and have to put in a new wire and a new cable and all of this new thing when we have the future of a very fast, speedy internet connection at our disposal. I want to make sure that the government provides the resources in our libraries so that those that cannot afford to have computers and to have Wi-Fi and to have cable TV sometimes have a place to go in order to be able to keep up with everybody else. And sometimes it's really hard to keep up with everybody else if you don't have those things at your disposal. I'd like to make sure the tax credits are given for those folks that want to have these startup businesses so that they can afford to stay here. And I believe that the government has a requirement of giving math and science as a basic core curriculum in our educational system.
Thank you.
No tech incubators or co-working spaces exist in Queens. They are both public New York City funded and privately funded tech incubator spaces in every borough. Manhattan Borough President Scott Stringer and Brooklyn Borough President Marty Markowitz have been advocates for tech and have both funded programs to support tech companies and small businesses. How will you prioritize precious public dollars, and how would you promote this growth?
Who's first?
Melinda, do you want to go?
So, I mean, we've talked a lot about it. I think that you're right. We should be the incubator actually for tech that is able to service the rest of the country if people choose to do that. But I would like to see folks being able to graduate from Cornell, although I think that's not till 2017, stay right here in our borough, have the resources available in Long Island City and all over this borough. I mean, we always focus on Long Island City because it's such an obvious choice, and it really does have the capacity and the warehouses and the areas that we can build good startup businesses. But let's face it, the goal is to stay here in Queens. So we need those resources to make sure that we have a good internet connection. We need to make sure that we spend the money on the education. And I don't mean to repeat myself, but I think a lot of this is just so crucial to the future of the borough. We need to make sure that we are providing that as part of the core basic educational system. we need to make sure that those, and I said we should have the resources in the library for those that can't afford to have it at home. But a lot of these kids only get those resources with the computers and the laptops in our school system as well. So, a lot of the council members, and I know the Councilman Comrie and Councilman Vallone do this as well, a lot of the council members spend a lot of member item in the school system in order to upgrade the facilities there. If it's not upgrading the wiring, it's making sure that there are laptops or science labs, by the way, in order for folks to learn. So I think you need to start from the beginning, and you need to make sure that as folks in Queens go through the educational system, have a place to work afterwards and also a place to spread out in the borough.
Thank you very much. Pete?
Okay, thanks. As I mentioned in the first question, there is a role for government. As I said in the first question, that comes with the borough president's office. That means zoning changes in areas like Long Island City to support tech industries. And as I said in the first question, that means capital funding where appropriate. Those are things government can do. Provide the infrastructure, provide what government needs to provide, like good schools, and gifted and talented programs and STEM programs. And I just built 500 seats at PS 70 to get rid of the modules and put a gym in. So we can provide infrastructure, and then we need to get out of the way and let businesses flourish, and not do things like a recent example is the living wage law. What happened was with Fresh Direct, they were going to come into New York City, but as soon as they heard about the living wage law being passed, they said, no, we're not going to come. So you know what the city council did? They waited until Fresh Direct signed its deal with signed its deal with the city, and then the city council passed its living wage law, and they said, hey, we're going to have living wages. Meanwhile, other companies like Fresh Direct, tech companies won't come here now. You won't know that. You won't know that we stopped this. But Fresh Direct is a perfect example of government getting in the way. I didn't support that. So there is a limited role for government. And as borough president, we have advice and consent over zoning, and we have a good portion of the capital budget. And look at our records, and we all have records of supporting this type of industry.
Thank you very much. Leroy?
What I would do to create opportunities for incubators and tech incubators, I would really work with the coalition to push to ensure that the desire for having a tech innovation zone is realized in the borough, working as the advocate, working with the communities, working to create the zoning and down zoning and creating the opportunities for businesses and tech companies, small tech companies to locate anywhere within the borough that they felt comfortable, but especially in Western Queens. I would look at creating an opportunity to give tax abatements to developers that wanted to build affordable corporate space, affordable shared space for businesses so that tech companies could work as well. Pushing to create tax abatements also for people that want to come in and do the hard wiring necessary. If a business wanted to be able to create a Wi-Fi hotspot, a secured Wi-Fi hotspot, we should be able to create an opportunity for that business to get some type of tax credit or tax abatement from the city. I would work to also encourage developers to build spaces and to ensure that we are creating new tech zone. The new tech zone can be supported by the development that's happening throughout the borough. And then I would also link up with our colleges, LaGuardia, Queens College, York College that we have in the borough, just in the CUNY colleges, and also the private colleges to help them, because they are developing tech centers as well to help support that, to create opportunities where their curriculums could match the desire of the tech companies as well. Not so that it's just limited at Cornell Tech, but that this desire can continue to sprout throughout the entire borough. And I would also work as borough president in a bully pulpit capacity, creating those forums, having those hearings, creating those public meetings, bringing businesses into Queens to see all of the energy, all of the ideas, and all of the startups that are trying to get things planted so that we could continue to grow the tech industry in Queens. There's no way.
Thank you very much.
No way what?
There's no way we shouldn't have co-location opportunities in the borough.
Thank you.
Thanks. The next topic is Cornell NYC Tech and the Tech Zone. So the Applied Sciences NYC and Cornell NYC Tech on neighboring Roosevelt Island have been called a game-changing investment to ensure that New York remains at the forefront of innovation. It is estimated that up to 120,000 tech jobs will be created from this future campus, and with the potential of these companies and jobs to be located in Western Queens. How do you plan to build upon this momentum, and how do you envision working with Cornell NYC Tech to realize the potential of this initiative? Peter, do you want to go first this time?
I don't want to, but I will. Well, I hate to rehash, but Cornell was the mayor deserves a lot of credit for bringing Cornell here, and that showed leadership, and that's what a borough president needs to show also when it comes to Queens County, to make sure that when the Cornell jobs come here, they come to Queens. We've got the locations for it, especially in Long Island City, right a stone's throw, literally across the river. And you've got to have a borough president who shows leadership that can make that happen. We've got to. We've got the zoning changes that are going to be necessary. The startup money that's going to be necessary. Borough president can do that. You got to look at the different borough presidents and see what they have done and incorporate that into your borough presidency. Marty Markowitz, obviously he's a cheerleader for the borough. We have to convince those businesses to come to Queens. Scott Stringer does a lot of policy. Good friend does a lot of good work. We've got to bring experts in, like the people in this room, bring them into roundtables and to task force and figure out the best way, because we don't have the answers up here. There's the people up here, out there know so much more than the three of us know about technology. They've got to come in and they've got to sit there at that table with us. And then you've got someone like Ruben Diaz, who still does legislation and is involved in legislation. We've got to be involved with the city council. So there's so many, we can make that borough president's office of Queens into a beacon for our businesses, to build around that anchor tenant of Cornell, which has been brought here and given to us. And there's so much that needs to be done, and a strong borough president can do that.
Great, thank you. Leroy, do you want to go next?
Sure, I think that the Cornell New York Tech, as we said earlier, is a real opportunity to expand job development, business development, and tech development throughout the borough. And I would work as the borough president to make sure that everything that Cornell did, that they would have an obligation and have an opportunity to work with Queens businesses. Again, working with the coalition that UK and other folks have started, working with the Chamber of Commerce, working with the Long Island City Alliance, and working with new businesses and new ideas, having those discussions on a regular basis, having the roundtables, bringing in opportunities, as I said earlier, to create tax abatements for new businesses that want to do tech, create opportunities and developer opportunities if they wanted to create workspace for technology companies or small companies, or actually creating it, and also creating those shared space locations where we need to be able to nurture business. We only have one location in the borough where businesses can try to get an opportunity to have a location where they can start up, and those are mostly around the food business, which QOEDC is doing. We need to ensure that that can happen. We need to also work together collaboratively with the different levels of government, the federal, state, and municipal level, and the borough president as an advocate, as a cheerleader, as the person that people will want to come to try to help steer and create an opportunity, should be the person to bring those coalitions together, to have those discussions, to bring in all of the people that are trying to get the opportunity and make the opportunity be realized by placing them in the room with the people that are interested in seeing that opportunity come from an idea to fruition.
Great, thank you. Melinda?
When the Applied Sciences New York City issued the RFP, or the RFEI, in 2010, there was an amazing reaction from throughout the world of different institutions that wanted to come here to the city of New York and to right next to the borough of Queens in order to be able to teach in our city. I think that as we move forward, and as the 8 kids that are graduating, or hopefully graduating from the Google headquarters downtown in New York City, and we welcome a class in the year 2017 to the Roosevelt Island campus, I think we need to be ready, and I think Long Island City needs to be ready. I think we need to build incentives for folks to go there, build incentives to make sure that we create an infrastructure that by the time the next graduating class happens, when they leave Roosevelt Island, that they are able to stay right here in the borough. I also believe that once we do that, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that hopefully other institutions will want to come here and educate as well. We had such a reaction worldwide from institutions that wanted to come here. I think once New York City proves that we can do this, that we can wire the city, that we can make sure that we create the incentives for our young startup businesses to be here, that we can make sure that when they graduate Cornell Tech, that they actually want to stay here in the city of New York and, God willing, in the borough of Queens. I do believe that there'll be a desire to have other institutions come here and do the same. And I would look forward to that. We should all have that problem.
Great, thank you.
Organizations such as the Coalition for Queens and Partnership for New York City, as well as City Council Speaker Christine Quinn, have recently released reports and policy recommendations to create a tech cluster in Queens. New York State has also recently provided initial funding to the Coalition to Queens to produce a tech zone plan with the current and future Queensborough president. What current obstacles do you think exist in the creation of this innovation community as it relates to infrastructure, land use, and financial incentives? And how will you work with the next mayoral administration to act on those recommendations to ensure Queens remains in the tech conversation?
So I'll start. I don't think I've started, so it's fun. It's always harder to start, by the way, just in case you're wondering why. We're trying to actually be polite to each other on it. So one of the things that needs to be done clearly as we move forward, we understand that the speaker and hopefully the next mayor wants to have these hubs. But we need to have a good internet connection here. And I touched upon the fact that Google has this beta program, this experimental program in Kansas City. But I do think that as a city, we need to make sure that that program, once we prove that it works and it does have a high-speed connection, is able to come here to the city of New York. I also think, and I touched upon this before as well, but in detail, that if we're going to upgrade the city, I mean, there's a huge push to have the entire city wired. But the one thing that you need to really balance, and you need to make sure that we have someone that's watching this, is that we don't actually Wi-Fi and we don't connect the city, and then we realize that there's a faster connection that's already out there, but it's not being tested in the city of New York. It's being tested in Kansas City. And that needs to become here. So I think that we not only need to have this dedication to the hubs, but we also need to build the infrastructure in order to keep it here.
Thank you. Leroy?
Listen a minute.
Right. I think that what we need to do, or what I would do as borough president, is to try to create an opportunity to make sure that there had been and there would be continued discussions, opportunities to have forums in the borough, opportunities to make sure that startup companies had platforms that we would work together to site locations. As I said earlier, we would work to try to do tax abatements for businesses that would want to start up, people that are looking to make sure that they create access, either wireless access or opportunities to create the infrastructure so that we could have more connectivity throughout the borough and throughout the tech center, making sure that we do the zoning in Western Queens to have the tech startups the way they want to be and how they can be easily brought into the area, working with the community boards and ensuring that the community boards had a full understanding and were fully invested in the process as well, working with the other elected officials to ensure that we had a consensus that we could go to Albany and ask for more money to continue the funding of the programs that they've already started, to continue and ensure that the opportunities for tax abatements were given, to ensure that the Western Queens, which we've identified as the area for to attract technology, had all of the rubrics that it needed so that it could flourish and be ready before 2017. We already have companies that are locating. We need to bring them in on a regular basis to talk about what their needs are, find out what they desire to see from the city, and work to make sure that all city agencies came into the borough and into Borough Hall and into Western Queens and talked about what those things are so that we can get that done. It's a dedicated and focused time that we have to do in the next couple of years to get ready for the start of Cornell New York Tech. But as was said earlier by other speakers, there are so many companies that want to locate in the city because we have such a strong city. We need to make all of that happen.
Thank you very much. Pete?
I think it was obstacles. The biggest obstacle is that New York City and New York State is a high tax, high regulation, non-business friendly area. That's got to be changed. And I've never seen an audience that's more capable of fact-checking what we say than this one. And trust me, what I say in this room here is not popular everywhere else, as you've probably figured out if I'm talking about living wages and paid sick and stuff like that. But it's part of my philosophy about businesses, and that business owners know best how to help their businesses, and government does not. It's not popular outside this room, but I say it everywhere I go because I'm not going to change now. Other obstacles, another one is the fact that our crime rate has stopped declining. People are looking at that. Businesses are very concerned about the new leadership coming to New York City and what it's going to do to keep crime down, because that's the foundation of a thriving economy. There are a lot of other obstacles when it comes to the tech industry. My colleagues have eloquently talked about fiber connectivity and better public Wi-Fi access and training our workforce and our kids, and capital funding is a huge need that we can help provide. And I want to thank the partnership, by the way, for their pledge of $20 million to startup companies, because there's a lot of good ideas. I'm sure a lot of them in this room. I was talking to some people with some great ideas, and that $20 million is going to go a long way.
Thank you. I'm actually going to add a follow-up question to this segment. And as those of you who've worked with me before probably would expect this. I mean, I've heard you guys talk a lot about some of your ideas, but do you have any concrete proposals, any concrete visions, anything that you would like to see happen in Queens, anything that you are working on proposing in Queens to bolster the tech sector?
I think we need to redevelop. I think we need to develop Long Island City so that the small startup businesses can be there. I think we need to make sure that not only the startup business here, but something a lot of people are not talking about, that there are places for folks to live right around there. It doesn't have to be 2-3 family homes. I think that a lot of these businesses are going to need inexpensive, good quality housing for the young people to live while they are starting their business. I think we need to make sure and look at the basic curriculum of the educational system, especially for our younger kids, to make sure that they are ready to go to specialized colleges or grad school when it's necessary. I think that our competition throughout the world probably doesn't stand up, and we need to make sure that we are making it as part of our basic core curriculum. I do believe we need tax incentives, tax exemptions and incentives, and we need to make sure that as you are starting your business that you understand that Queens is a very tech-friendly area. I want to make sure that where it's appropriate, we add hotels and we add development so that as folks are moving out of the tech industry or choose not to be there once that they have the expertise, that they are able to utilize their expertise in other industries that we are also developing in the borough of Queens. I think one of the great things with having the industry here is that you are developing this whole generation of folks that will stay here and invest in our borough, hopefully not only in the tech industry, because that's important and that's great to start. But the great thing about it is they will then bring their expertise. You will then bring your expertise to all the other industries that this borough has to offer.
Thank you. Leroy?
Well, as I said, we would work immediately to carve out the zone and do the planning for whatever rezoning needed to be done in the Western Queens tech sector, looking along Queens Boulevard, looking along 21st Street, and making sure that the tech sector had the zoning necessary to be in place immediately. I would convene immediately a open roundtable where we would have an opportunity to make sure that all of the interested parties came and worked on that. If it's not done before the end of this year, it would be done within the first 6 months of my term as borough president. I would work to make sure that the request for tax abatements for businesses or developers that wanted to create an opportunity to allow either tech companies to locate in their business or to make sure that they were able to do the wireless connectivity necessary to get the area and the infrastructure wired, that they could get the either tax abatements or incentives to do that. I would expand the opportunities of the Chamber of Commerce so that they could have bring in experts from all around the country so that we could work together with all of these people that have ideas here, bringing in, again, LaGuardia College and Queens College and York College, our 3 CUNY colleges, so that they could work and look at how they can set up parallel programs to make sure that they can take advantage of Cornell Tech, because remember, Cornell Tech is a graduate school. It's going to be a graduate program, so there are opportunities to move children, to move young people right into that program at a CUNY level, working from there. So those are 3 of the concrete things that I would do immediately.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we all agree on this, but as I mentioned, I'm going to start right off trying to create a business-friendly environment and get government out of the way. But I don't presume to have all the tech answers, and I'm going to bring in the people in this room who have the ideas and work together. None of us are borough president yet. We're not going to do that yet. That would be a little bit presumptuous. But once we're elected, we're going to do that like it hasn't been done before. Bring in the technology industry, and let's get this going. One of the things I've heard about, and I like, and I can't tell you I came up with this idea, but an urban tech campus in Long Island City, modeled after West Coast campuses like that work. Then we would have to get funding. We would have to bring in the experts to get it done. We would have to do zoning changes. That's what a borough president does. But you need a borough president who understands the importance of social media and of technology. I've passed bills that put information on the web that was never there before. Crime in schools, crime in parks, all out on the web because of bills I passed. How much more time do I have, GK? When you put that up, that means what, 10 seconds? I'm done when you put that up? Okay. All right, I'm done. All right, bye.
Thank you very much.
You were done before you're.
The next topic is STEM and K through 12 education. New York City has started 2 software engineering academies, one in Union Square in Manhattan and one in the Bronx. The city has also recently started a new pilot software program at 20 public schools around New York City. What could you do as Queensborough president to improve STEM education in the public school system and other education institutions in Queens to prepare our youth for future jobs?
You want to go? Oh, okay. I would utilize the opportunity. One of the things that you have as borough president is a capital budget, and making sure that all of our schools would be able to have the equipment and all of the things needed so that they could quickly pick up the STEM curriculum and immediately. Within the first year, I would make sure that we sit down with the Department of Education and push them to ensure that all of the resources that every school that needed to have the STEM curriculum could have it. And it should not just be focused on high schools. We need to get to our children on the elementary school level with STEM. We cannot wait until they get to high school to try to then give them applied math and science. They need to get that desire and love of math early on. So we need to make sure that it's done at every level, and that the Department of Education is fully invested in making sure that our schools are outfitted. We have 3 schools that have been focused to be STEM schools. One is going to be located in Queens, but unfortunately that school won't be ready until 2017. So in the meantime, we need to work with the schools that we do have that are having that have the ability to make sure that they have a program that they're fully realized. And then we work with a program from Queens College where they have professors that are already going out and doing applied math and science to young people, making sure that that program is expanded immediately, given the full funding they need to go out and reach into the schools and make sure that the STEM program works. As they do the new core curriculum, you've heard from a lot of people that the training is not enough, so we need to make sure that there's extra training and volunteers that are going out to do the STEM training now.
Great, thank you. Peter, maybe?
I agree with Leroy, we don't just need better STEM programs, but we need better schools overall. And as I said, my girls went to public school, and I'm a parent, and our parents have been shut out of the public school system for the last 12 years now. We've got to get them back involved to make our schools even better. So I know I can't go into it in the time I have, what it takes to make our schools better, but I am a parent of public school girls, and I'm well aware of what needs to be done. What I've done recently as an elected official is I work with our local electeds, and Mike Generis was just here to save our gifted and talented program. That's where our tech people are going to come from for the most part. The city wanted to destroy it at PS 122, bring it from 11 classes down to 2. And it was a difficult fight. It entailed rallies and trips to Tweed and meetings, but we did it because that's the kind of dedication you have to have as a leader to save the good programs. I just provided middle school STEM programs in my district because it's so important to me. Obviously we need better schools. I think I know how to get that done. I have a record of saving those programs and implementing those programs in my neighborhood, and that's the kind of borough president I'd be.
Great, thank you.
New York City developed about, I think it was 22 tech schools in 2004. And as I was talking to someone earlier, some of that science is just outdated. And we need to figure out how to upgrade that. We need to figure out how to upgrade it quickly, and we need to figure out how to upgrade it in being cost efficient. So I think one of the key things to making sure that that happens in the educational system is to make sure that our schools are not only funded for computers and all the science labs, but make sure that they are up to date. The tech world is changing every single day. Every single time I get a phone, there's a new phone available. And I think that that's happening in our school system as well. I think that there has been some core educational standards that have been developed by the New York State STEM education collaboration. I think I'd like to make sure that we are looking at that, and all of those educational requirements and standards are available and actually given to our children in the city of New York. They are accepted, research practices, and we should be able to utilize them as well. But more so, we need just to keep our kids up to date. And as I said before, and I can't stress it enough, I have a 5-year-old. That 5-year-old is already doing things on my iPad and showing me things that I find amazing. And my 2-year-old is now stealing my 5-year-old's iPad every single time he picks it up. Now, I wonder all the time, when my 5-year-old gets to school, are they going to be able to keep up with his technology? And that's a question we should be asking.
Okay, thank you.
Public institutions in Queens are an incredible resource and reach a wide network of communities across our diverse borough. Queens College educates more computer science majors than anywhere in the metropolitan area, more than NYU and Columbia combined, and Queens Public Library has almost 1 million active borrowers yearly. How do we better connect the communities that these public institutions serve with the incredible opportunities that the tech sector provides, and what additional opportunities are there for increased public learning and access to STEM in Queens? And I should say that we're running horribly over time, so we're probably going to cut your answers down. So, who wants to go first?
I think that we've been in a real great position over the last 12 years. Pete, Melinda, and myself, we've worked to ensure that the Queens Library got more capital funding than ever before. The Queens College also got opportunity to expand its program so that they could be able to provide dormitories and new labs and new workspace as well. I think that we would clearly make sure that we continue to fund, as borough president, the dollars to ensure that the library system could continue to keep up with technology. They're talking about giving out portable e-readers now to people so that they can be able to access the library with an e-reader from anywhere. We need to make sure that we continue to work with the colleges as well. We've been able to expand LaGuardia, York College, and Queens College in Queensboro so that they can continue to provide more curriculum opportunities and be able to bring in better professors as a result of the fact that we've been able to improve their physical plants.
Thank you very much. Melinda?
Ow.
Would you expect any less?
So I think we've talked about how libraries need to be up to date on all the tech requirements. I mean, all of us have issued capital funds in order to upgrade checkouts and in order to make sure they have computers and in order to make sure that there's access to kids, especially if the kids don't have access to Wi-Fi and computers at home. But you asked an interesting question. I think libraries are a lot more than that. My father is the founder of the Queen's Symphony Orchestra. My mother was the founder of the Queen's Council on the Arts. There isn't a weekend that goes by, or a week that goes by, I should say, because it's on the weekday sometimes too, that my 5-year-old doesn't go to the library for reading, for storytelling time. When I was a council member, I also funded musical programs in our libraries. They are a great part of our community. So I think that the libraries are actually a very interesting balance of keeping the culture and the arts and the availability of our literature by books, while also upgrading to make sure that we are in tune with the century.
Thank you. Pete?
Excuse me. I agree with everything my colleague said, and I think Queens is very lucky, first of all. Anybody in this room would make a very good borough president, and other boroughs don't have that choice. And so we all agree on this. And one of the things about the borough president position, though, is it's an advocate for Queens. When it comes to library funding, we have the most customers. We don't get anywhere near the most money, and it's the borough president's job to fix that. When you talk about Queens College, one of the ways to help there is to restore the Peter Vallone Scholarship, which was cut when I stood up for Queens. That cut the kids' tuition in half. 15,000 kids had that, mostly new immigrants, available to everyone. And that was cut when I stood up for Queens, when I showed some leadership, when Manhattan took the Queensboro Bridge from us. So the job of borough president is to be an advocate for programs like our libraries and for our colleges, and to be a leader and to be a cheerleader if necessary, and to use a bully pulpit when necessary.
Thank you very much.
Next up is workforce development and tech jobs training. Despite relatively high levels of unemployment in New York, tech companies have been unable to find the talent they need to grow their businesses. Currently in New York, only 1 out of every 4 tech developer jobs are filled due to lack of skilled workers. What steps would you take to address this talent gap to ensure that our residents are prepared to succeed in the modern economy?
I would work with the workforce development centers that we have now. The mayor, a year and a half ago, tried to start an initiative where he brought in Google, and he brought in the other major tech companies in the city to try to create opportunities to work with folk that are interested in working in the tech sector. It failed horribly because what happens at the workforce development centers is that they were not prepared to keep up with the level of ideas that came from the sector. And they were not also processing people to make sure that they could look for jobs in tech. They just were not able to do that. So I would, as borough president, work with the coalition, work with the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that they were important players in finding the people and bringing the people that are using social media, using the technology that's available to let people know from all over the city that these jobs are available, and link them up directly using the web and using all technology that's available.
Great, thank you.
So, besides what we've talked about already, which would be the education of our kids and training, and Cornell actually being a key component of training the workforce in being able to take the jobs that hopefully we will be creating as the borough president, I think it would also be important to provide incentives for more companies to come here. I mean, we're very honored to have a lot of the tech companies in Long Island City, and most of them are listed on our literature. But I think that we also need to create incentives for other companies to come here and also work out arrangements with them so that there are sorts of apprenticeship programs and training within those companies. Maybe not for full pay, maybe we have internships, but it would be great to see these companies coming here with the idea that they need to give back to our borough in the form of internships and maybe getting school credit. And you get school credit now for public service. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to get school credit for some of these apprenticeship programs that a lot of these companies can offer for training to make sure that our folks are trained to be able to get good paying, high paying jobs. And I think that we are on the right road to do that.
Great, thank you.
As I said, I would bring in the best and brightest minds to work on problems like that, because I'm not presumptuous enough to think that I have the answers on almost any topic. And the people in this room have a lot more answers, and they would be at the table helping us solve those problems. But I think it's important to have a borough president who understands the importance of social media and the internet. I mean, we just have this great app. This is Queens app. I think it was Queensboro Chamber of Commerce that did it. It was done with a grant, and that app is going to help businesses. It's going to help Queens. It's going to help tourism. And again, when it comes to Facebook, I know the people in this room probably laugh when I say Facebook because it's so old school now. But it's not for elected officials. I mean, I'm probably still one of the only elected officials, and I started this to use that social media to communicate with now 8 20,000 people on my page on a daily basis. I find it's a great way to stay in contact as a government official with the people. So I understand, and it's been a huge help to me. It was how I was the first one to discover that our streets weren't plowed, through Facebook, through the use of social media. So to understand the importance of this, to be able to work with experts to get it done, that's the way the borough president should do this.
Great, thank you.
The next topic is internet access, fiber connectivity, and public Wi-Fi access. According to the Center for an Urban Future, the lack of high-speed internet has been cited as the second biggest barrier to growth by entrepreneurs. This is in large part due to the legal and regulatory barriers that make it difficult to build out needed broadband infrastructure. New York City has specific connectivity plans and negotiated with service providers to provide areas such as the Brooklyn Naval Yard for high-speed 1 gigabit fiber connectivity. How do you plan to address these issues and work with the city and state governments and service providers to expand fiber infrastructure in Queens? Go for it. Melinda.
So the funny thing is that the councilman mentioned Queens Now, and it's a great app, and someone was showing it to me before we came in here, but his internet connection was slow, and you can't make this stuff up. And it does show you can have great apps, and then the internet connection just isn't appropriate for it, and just doesn't do justice to the whole experience. I think we need to upgrade, clearly, the city of New York. We need to make sure that the entire city is wired. I would like, as I said before, to make sure that while we wire the city, we're doing it with the most top, up-to-speed connection that we possibly can. When I was chair of the City Council's Land Use Committee, we fought for kiosks all over the city of New York that not only would give people access who did not have their computers or who may just need tourist information or things like that, to change a lot of the public payphones to public kiosks that they would be able to use. Not only would they be able to use that, by the way, but it'd be environmentally friendly, because you could also, if you had an electric car, charge your car at the kiosks as well. So I think that there's a lot of things we could do in the city to make it much more Wi-Fi friendly.
Thank you. Leroy?
Internet friendly.
Yeah, I agree with what Melinda said. We need to, make sure that we do everything we can to force do it. The mayor's office to get opportunities for tax abatements to ensure that businesses that want to upgrade their connectivity have the incentive to do so. That we work with and look at other examples in Korea, in South America. They have almost a 96% high-speed interconnectivity usage throughout the entire country. There's no way that we shouldn't be doing the same thing here in New York City. We need to make sure that public places can be high-speed Wi-Fi spots, that we make sure that all the libraries also can be Wi-Fi hubs. They are now on the outside, but working with them to make sure that they can be Wi-Fi hubs as well. As I said earlier, they're working on now getting tablets to give to people and e-readers that they can look at and access the library system on any tablet and e-reader. As Melinda said,
Thank you very much, Peter.
Just okay.
No.
All right.
I think you're bleeding there, Leroy, a little bit.
I'm taking this too personally.
No, it's all okay.
I agree with everything my colleagues said. We just like saying fiber connectivity and things like that a lot. But I mean, one thing we can do is look at the police department. I've been working with them very closely for 12 years now to increase the use of technology, and we are a world leader on that now when it comes to CompStat, which gives you instant feedback on where crime is happening. When it comes to the real-time crime center, where you can just sit there and see what's going on. You can see if somebody leaves a bag where it shouldn't be, because the technology will let you know that wasn't there, and now it's there. The surveillance and the cameras that we've been putting in. Now we're using Wi-Fi, so the police officers on the way to a scene can get a picture of the person they're looking for, the arrest record of the person they're looking for. The fire department can get a building plan. These are the ways you can implement the uses of Wi-Fi and technology into our city agencies.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're going to go on to the next topic, open government data and government accountability. As a city council member, what type of data or information did you want that you couldn't get to inform lawmaking and policy decisions? As the future Queensborough president, what would you do to track information across government and community boards, and what information would you seek to inform your policy decisions?
Well, I don't think I've gone first in a while. I think I mentioned this before, but I've made a career of trying to make government more transparent. And whenever I was stymied by the police department or the parks department, I mean, I asked for crime in schools, and they wouldn't tell me. You could go on the internet and you could find out the lunch menu of a school, but you couldn't find out how much crime was in that school. And again, parents didn't have that information. They wouldn't put it on the internet. I passed the law. Same with crime in parks. I think you want to know what parks are most dangerous and what aren't most dangerous. They wouldn't give us the information. I wrote the law and I passed it. So I have made a career of trying to give information from the government to the public so that you can use that information in ways the government could never even think of using that information. We've seen that so many times where private groups with the actual knowledge gets information and comes up with ideas that the government never could.
Great.
I think
Thank
that was
you.
a stop. Okay.
Linda, you want to go?
I actually remember what the Councilman Valona, I actually remember that hearing. He did really well on that, and it was amazing that you could get all the information you wanted, but not the stats in the schools. So one of the things that we wanted to see at the time, which is now available, is things that the community boards have. Like, for instance, if you wanted to have a block party or a street fair, things like that, now it's actually on the internet. And I think it was one of the great advancements of community boards, because now the community can actually access where the applications and where you can find a street fair and community events. And I think that's one of the extremely important things. What I would like to see in the future is DOB online, streamlined, in order to make sure that small businesses and tenants and everyone that uses the Department of Buildings is able to access it quickly, and that there is a streamlined procedure. It's just not done now, and as I mentioned before, you know, the Office of Movie and Television is able to do it. I think that we should be able to do it across the board.
Great. Thank you.
You know, I would, as borough president, work to make sure that we create an open data office so that people can have an opportunity to access all aspects of government through the borough president's office. Making sure that we bring in tech support, people that are interested in opening up the borough president's website so that you can go access that website to get to any city agency. I would also advocate to make sure that, just like in the Department of Consumer Affairs, where I used to be chair before I chaired land use, we push them to make sure that every application that they have for a person is on the website, and all of the responsibilities for businesses are on the website also. I would work with Queens Overall Economic Development to make sure that they had a direct link to the Borough President's website, the Queens Chamber of Commerce, also the Tech Coalition, so that people that wanted to find out information could link right to the Borough President's website, go right to the agency, or right to the Q&A that they needed to find out how to access government. To make sure that also we push to ensure that the controller, which just passed a bill and created a program showing exactly where each mod of money is spent by a city agency, that is accessed right through to the Borough President's website, so that you can see immediately how much each city agency is spending their dollars. And we would push to make sure that that is coterminous into the Borough President's website, so that could work. We need to make
Great.
tech available
Great.
for everyone.
Thank you.
The last question of the night is, social media is a way to engage communities and enable discussion. Do you have a plan to improve the digital presence of the Queensborough President's Office? What type of digital outreach tools will you utilize? Examples include social media, crowdsourcing ideas, constituent feedback. And let's start this off with Peter.
I'm going to do exactly what I'm doing now. Again, I know how lame it sounds when I say Facebook to this room, but look at the other elected officials all throughout New York City. I can count maybe 2 or 3 who've started, maybe 4 who've started to actually do their own Facebook pages after I did. I pioneered that. Again, it's a joke in this room, but in the other world, it isn't. And I've got 8,000 people who I talk to, every one of them. I am up to 2, 3 in the morning conversing with my constituents. It's a great way. It's a great way to interact. There was a smell not too long ago in my neighborhood. I couldn't figure out where it was coming from, so I Facebooked, hey guys, is anyone else smelling this? And by getting the answers, I was able to pinpoint exactly what the problem was and which sewage plant broke down and where it came from. Same with the Well, we weren't getting plowed. Again, I went on Facebook immediately and said, I'm not getting plowed, how about you? And then my page blew up, and I called some other council members, and they said, same here. And then I called the mayor, and it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was all documented on my Facebook page. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to have a lot more friends, I hope, but I'm going to try to get back to every one of them. I don't know if my kids will let me on Instagram, but on Facebook, we'll be talking.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the things that the Borough President's Office has to do is be able to make constituent complaints online. And while you're making constituent complaints online, you should be able to get an answer online as well. I think that would make a great headway in making sure that constituents are actually served. The great thing about that is once they're actually making the complaints online, you can also track the complaints. You know, when you call Time Warner Cable, they'll say, what's your address? We'll tell you if there's already been reported outages in the area. There should be a way for the borough president, especially since there's such a vast area for the borough president to cover, that you can look online and say, all right, you know, I'm on 83rd Street or I'm on Austin Street in Forest Hills. Has there been reported, you know, they reported the potholes that are between this and this street? Or has there been an uptake in crime in this neighborhood? There should be a way to track the complaints, and thereby the borough president can actually be useful to the agencies with the data that she
Yeah, we heard that. We heard
is collecting. I'm going to stop right there.
Wait, I don't get it.
Thank you very much. Leroy.
You know, when I'm a Facebook user. I use Facebook. I can connect with my constituents all the time. When Sandy hit, my district was devastated by over almost 1,000 trees that came down just in my district alone. Facebook was very helpful to me in communicating with my constituents about where the trees were, what power outage where they had, did I have folks that had defibrillators or other medical equipment that needed to get attention. Because while rightly most of the attention had to be in the Rockaways and in Brooklyn and in other areas of the city where people were devastated and flooded out, I still had people that had real needs. And Facebook was something that really helped my office with responding. My office even, I had no power for 10 days, so we actually had to relocate to the central library. My entire staff came digitalized. We used our smartphones to stay in contact with our constituents. We moved our Outlook files to our smartphones. We had a couple of laptops that my staff had their individual laptops. We connected. We were at the Central Library. We actually found that the Central Library was a great location because we wound up not getting constituents from my district, just them, but also people from the Rockaways, because all of the buses that come from the Rockaways converge in downtown Jamaica right by the Central Library. So we wound up being totally portable. So I would expand that as borough president and make sure that we're using every social media possible to communicate, that you can upload pictures, you can upload videos, you can do instant events. Yesterday, unfortunately, there was a double homicide in my district. It was a domestic dispute, but we were able to find out through using my smartphone and talking to people that I knew the block president, exactly what happened and what the incident was, through texting and contacting people, emailing back and forth and texting. I would definitely expand all of those platforms in the borough president's office.
Thank you very much.
Now we're each going to do a brief closing statement from candidates. 2 minutes each. Who wants to lead?
All right, I'll do the first.
Do you guys want to draw straws for this one?
I'll do the first close. I want to say that I've enjoyed this evening and talking to people about what we have to do to make sure that we have a tech future in Queens and ensure that we come to an agreement on how we get there, and understanding that we all need each other to make that happen. We all need to have discourse and open communication. We all need to make sure that the borough president's office is a platform to ensure that all of the advocates, all of the ideas, all of the people with the energy and vision come into the borough president's office and create a platform and a focus on making sure that that vision is realized. And I can tell you that when we have an opportunity on September 10th to vote, that one of us will be your borough president, and I know that you'll be well served by any one of us. And I want you to know that I'm honored to hopefully be your first choice. I will be honored to make sure that whatever happens, that we're going to be part of the discussion that happens in this borough, part of the future in this borough, by working together, by making sure that your voices are heard and respected, by making sure that the things that you need, you have a friendly voice at Borough Hall to ensure that that happens, by ensuring that whatever your concerns are, whatever your ideas are, you know that if you send an email or a text or a wave or a video, that you will get a reply and that you'll have an opportunity to understand all of the details and all of the nuances behind what we're trying to do on your behalf. I want to thank you for putting this forum together today. I hope that you will stay involved as we move through the course of this election season, and that you are not only participating this evening, but stay as a participatory member of the greatest borough in the world, Queens. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've had a great discussion here about tech tonight, and I don't think I can, wrap up repeating everything that we've talked about, but I do think that everyone who is here tonight has a great investment in the borough of Queens. We are families, we are single folks, married folks, kids, we have seniors, we have parents, and we all need a borough that we can live, eat, sleep, send our children to school in. So I just wanted to go over a few of my other priorities as well. I think that we need a great educational system here in the borough of Queens, because everyone wants a better life for their kids than they have themselves. I think we need to promote Queens as a cohesive brand, make sure that when people come to the city of New York, they know that if they don't come to Queens, they are missing out on the greatest asset that New York City has to offer. I think we do need to attract new tech businesses, but I also think we need to develop different economic projects throughout this borough to make sure that whatever you want to do for a living, that you can find it right here in the borough of Queens. Like I said before, my father was the founder of the Queens Symphony Orchestra. He didn't believe that if you didn't provide culture and arts and training in those industries as well, if you graduated school without learning an instrument or learning how to paint a picture, that you didn't get a full education. The Department of Education did not do your child justice. I think that's important. I think it's important that we have more than 9 hospitals here in the borough of Queens. You know as well as I do that if you need to go to an emergency room at 2 in the morning, you'd rather wait till the morning and call your regular doctor, and chances are you'll be seen at the exact same time. Those are things that I also think are different priorities here in the borough, and by the way, to develop the Rockaways and make sure that there are transportation options for everyone in this borough as well. I also have a Facebook page. It is Melinda Katz 2013. I'd love to visit with you on it. My email address is melinda@melindakatz.com. melinda@melindakatz.com. That goes right to my iPhone. I'd love to hear from you, and I thank you for having this forum tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for staying. I mean, we have to stay, but you guys didn't, and you're still here. And that's great. And as I said, it's you that are going to make the difference in the next in the future when it comes to the technology in Queens. Not any elected official, but you guys, and the willingness of the elected officials to talk to you. We all want to do many of the same things, as you've heard. So the only difference is that I've noticed here tonight is that the role of government, and you can Google this, but I have the history of working for smaller government and less taxes and less regulations and unleashing our businesses and our business people and our fresh young brains to get out there and make that money and hire those people and pay those taxes. Also, I'm the only person with any experience in keeping our streets safe, which is the foundation for any economy. And the only experience in small business that's been here in Queens since 1932. My father, who did a little bit for Queens too, he was a small businessman, and he ran the firm before I did. But what's important to remember here is that we all want to do the same things, and we all do a very good job of it. Queens is very lucky, as I said, to have the people in this room who are running for borough president. Remember, it's not. We're not running for mayor. We're running for borough president. There are going to be 4 other borough presidents, all looking to do the exact same things we're looking to do. So it's going to be the question is going to be who's going to be able to get that done the best? Who has that record of leadership for Queens County to implement all the great ideas that we just discussed? And as I said, Queens is very lucky. These people are both good friends of mine. We've all got a lot of government experience. Thank God none of mine is in Albany, but we've got a lot of government experience. Get it? No. I've got the different experience in the private sector, in small business, which I think is necessary to create that business-friendly environment. So thank you all for staying here and listening to us, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future as one of us tries to implement these ideas. Thank you. God bless.
Now we're going to hand it back to Juke to close it.
All right, great. Well, thank you all the candidates for sharing your vision here with us tonight. And, really thank you for giving your thoughts on your vision for the future of Queens. And thanks for dedicating your time to serving our community. Will everyone please give them a round of applause for being here with us tonight? Thank you, Claire and Kelly, for being great moderators
Good job,
for us
guys. Good
tonight.
job.
Please give them a round of applause as well. And I want to thank Carl and Chris and Museum Moving Image. Thank you, Marissa, Anna, Neil, Liz from AT&T for putting this together with us. Thank you, Mike and Victor from Partnership in New York City, Nick and Hirsch from Queens County Young Democrats, Noel and Veronica from Code for America, and to our coordinators that actually put the event on tonight, Megan and Emil for coordinating, putting together all the pieces of this event. Last, the volunteers that checked everyone in, helped do the ushering tonight. Please give them a round of applause as well. Crystal, Lily, Aaron, Jennifer, Dion, Veronica, and Sangeetha. And this is actually the first of 2 events. We'll be doing a mayoral forum on tech here as well on the 17th. Same place, same time, discussing these similar issues and hopefully hearing from mayoral candidates how they can see economic development growth here. But thank you so much for your time in spending here and spending to think about the future of Queens. And have a great night. Thank you very much for participating here tonight.